Looking around for the lieutenant, I find him standing alone alongside the firehouse, staring down into a neat row of freshly clipped hedges. I hurry to his side and he commands, "Get to work." For firemen, there is nothing more attention-getting than a riotous banging on the firehouse door. When this occurs, one of two things is happening. Somebody is breaking off balls, or something so horrendous is taking place right outside of quarters that people do not have time to pull an alarm box or call 911. If the pounding and the kicking only lasts a couple of seconds, it's somebody breaking off balls. But if it continues and intensifies, it is a verbal alarm. It's Friday around 8 p.m. on a beautiful early summer evening in June 1973, and at 22 years of age, I am the youngest and newest member of Ladder Company 17-2 in the South Bronx. The designation 17-2 indicates that we are the second section of Ladder Company 17. At this time, there are several areas of New York City where the fire duty is so intense and the number of emergency calls so great that the firehouses are overwhelmed. With no money in the city's budget to build more, the solution is to simply place another fire truck in an existing house and have them share the workload. Newly assigned probationary firemen are given jobs nobody else wants to do, like brick cleaning brown skid marks out of toilet bowls and washing the pots and pans used to cook dinner. At mealtimes, the probie is expected to eat faster than everyone else and then get into the stink and start doing the dirty work well before the senior members have finished eating. It is there at the sink, while chipping baked-on chicken flesh off a roasting pan with a butter knife, that I experienced my first verbal alarm. The instant the banging begins, forks full of food stop halfway to open mouths, and when it continues, dinner is forgotten and the kitchen empties. As the boy bum runs past me, I ask, "What's happening?" And he says, "Get on your rig." I follow along as everybody runs to the apparatus floor where we begin putting on our gear and climbing aboard the rigs. As we're doing this, my lieutenant hurries outside and returns in a flash. "Probie, get the first aid kit and follow me," and he's gone again. Grabbing the kit from the rig and rushing outside, I encounter a crowd that is growing in size by the second, and I know intuitively something horrible has taken place. Now, in the ghetto, entertainment is where you find it. And I've learned in my couple of months working here that fires and fire suppression draw large crowds of people who do a lot of oohing and ahhing like children watching a master magician. Now, however, there is no oohing and ahhing. This is not a crowd, it's a mob, and it's angry. Looking around for the lieutenant, I find him standing alone alongside the firehouse, staring down into a neat row of freshly clipped hedges. I hurry to his side. He tersely commands, "Get to work." Where the bush ends and the child begins is impossible to tell. But what's obvious is the rapidly expanding pool of blood in which he lays face first to the ground. Holy shit. How did this happen? And what in God's name can I do about it? Little voice in my head says, "Think, Tom, think." Nothing could be done with her stuck in the bush, so I try to get her out. I grab her by the ankles and I attempt to pull her free of the hedge and onto the lawn. But she doesn't budge. I pull harder, and still she doesn't move. It's almost as if she's nailed to the ground. Forcing my head in amongst the branches of the hedge to get a closer look, the realization hits me like a knee in the nuts. She is nailed to the ground. A branch the diameter of my thumb has penetrated her cheek and attached it to the hedge. Sliding out of the bush and nailing next to her, the voice inside my head says, "Okay, Tom, just lift the face a little bit, she'll be free." I try gently lifting her head, but it's no good. The face isn't moving. So I exert a little more force and still nothing. At this point, my little voice shouts, "Stop fucking around and get the kid loose!" I stand up, reach down, one hand on each side of her impaled head, and forcibly yank her free of the branch, which, after going through her cheek, had pierced the roof of her mouth and buried itself 6 inches deep inside her skull. Pulling her out of the hedge, I then, as gently as possible, turn her over face up. She's as limp as a rag doll. It's as if every bone in her body is broken. Opening her mouth in preparation for starting CPR, discover it filled with leaves stripped from the branch as it bedded itself inside of her. In addition to her broken body and lack of breathing, the bleeding from her ears, nose, and mouth has ceased. Even a probie can tell this kid is dead. In the 4 or 5 minutes that have passed since I was chipping chicken from a roasting pan, the mob has grown both enormous and furious. Something bizarre is going on here. I just don't understand what it is. Kneeling beside the lifeless body, I look up at the lieutenant to report a death. He replies, "Don't move." And he walks over to where the chief is located. After several seconds of discussion, they both return to where I'm kneeling, and the chief orders me to begin CPR. The chief, she's dead. Chief's an old-timer who's worked in the ghetto many years, and he knows the mob wants to make someone pay for this atrocity. Now he's going to have me do what must be done to make sure that we're not the ones to pick up the tab. Covertly pointing with his thumb at the agitated people behind me, he explains, "We're not doing it for her, we're doing it for them." Now I understand. We're not attempting to save her life. We are simply trying to maintain an uneasy peace, and I am just another actor performing his role in the theater of the street. A quick finger swipe removes most of the debris from her mouth. Then pressing my mouth over her, I give her a breath, and in return, get a close-up view of blood and leaves as they spew out of the gaping hole in her cheek. As I'm about to begin the first set of chest compressions, an ambulance arrives, making it unnecessary for me to continue with this gruesome charade. Now able to join the other firemen who stand in a cluster several yards away, I arrive just as a cop begins filling them in on the particulars of what has transpired. 2 11-year-old boys had taken this 8-year-old girl to the roof of the 20-story project building all 3 of them lived in, which is adjacent to the firehouse, and once there, they attempted to rape her. The girl tried to prevent this attack by threatening to tell their mothers, so they threw her off the roof. Just then, flanked by cops, the 2 little killers exit the project building in handcuffs, and they're both laughing. I feel like I'll never laugh again. Turning to the firehouse, I go to the bathroom, strip off my clothes, which are encrusted with the mud created by the young girl's blood, take a long, hot, soapy shower to clean my body, but I don't have a clue how to clean my mind. That information is provided moments later when one of the senior guys invites me down into the firehouse basement, where the table of justice and the refrigerator filled with beer are located. This area is strictly off limits for probies, but after what just happened, they made an exception for me. The boy bum sits in a chair at the head of the table and assumes his signature pose. Leaning back with his arms folded across his chest, his eyes scanning everything in the room like radar picking up the smallest detail, he says, "You can't let this shit get to you. Have a beer and forget about it." That beer helped. The next few helped even more. And before long, the bum has everybody laughing. Sliding another beer across the table in my direction, the boy bum says, "Welcome to the club. You ain't a civilian no more. You're one of us now. And every day we do shit they can't imagine. So enjoy the company of your brothers. We understand each other like nobody outside these walls ever will. And as for the rest of the world, fuck them all if they can't take the joke." Now, alcohol is interesting, if nothing else. During my youth, the outcome of Friday nights depended on the number of paper bags entering our 4-room apartment. One large square bag indicated 4 6-packs of Ballantine ale, which heralded an evening of the parents in the kitchen, laughing and singing My Wild Irish Rose and paddling Madeline home until the cans were empty. At this point, Mary had gone to bed, and Tom had planted them in front of our 17-inch black and white Admiral TV in the living room, turned to, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Don Amici's International Showtime." That was as much as the program as he ever saw each week before passing out in the chair. On these nights, pretty much the only way to get in trouble would be to try to change the channel on the TV. Although soused to the point of unconsciousness and able to sleep through a nuclear attack, the sound of the channel dial being turned would instantly revive him and bring forth a roar of, "Put that back on!" I learned at an early age to operate in a clandestine manner. However, if the large square bag was accompanied by a round, 4-inch diameter, 1-foot tall paper bag with the top twisted like the fuse of a Molotov cocktail, condition read, every man for himself. Because the small bag contained a quart of Fleischmann's rye. And just as mingling nitro and glycerin together produced an explosive mixture, ale and whiskey in the parent's stomach generated a ticking time bomb. The night would begin with the same laughing and singing, but would soon degenerate into screams of, "You son of a bitch!" and "Fuck you!" Being caught in the open when John Barleycorn possessed my father would, if I was unlucky, get me a foot in the ass or a smack across the face. That hurt. If luck was shining on me, all I got was yelled at, which didn't hurt. At least not physically. But either way, I never cried. Because crying would release, "You're crying? Well, now I'll give you something to cry about, monster." And I indeed would be given something to cry about. As soon as I saw that little bag, I retreated to the walk-in closet in my bedroom, turned on the light, closed the door, sat in the farthest reaches of that shelter, and read till I woke up in the morning. My earliest readings were science fiction, but after a while I realized I would never escape my feelings of being inconsequential and inadequate by piloting a spaceship to the planet Happy. That possibility escape came when I began reading military history and discovered Audie Murphy. Standing only 5 feet 5 inches tall and weighing but 120 pounds, both the Marines and the paratroopers rejected Murphy because he just wasn't up to their standards. When he finally joined an infantry unit, his company commander offered to have him assigned as a cook. Murphy thanked him, but refused the offer. He joined the army to fight, and fight he did, going on to become the most highly decorated soldier in World War II. He received the battlefield promotion to the rank of lieutenant and was awarded every medal for valor the military had, to include the highest award our country could bestow upon a soldier, the Congressional Medal of Honor. His deeds proved to the world that he was a real hero, and that is exactly what I wanted to become. Over time, the repeated visits to our apartment by the cops telling the parents to quiet down, the neighbors whispering as I walked by, and my friends busting my balls about having drunks for parents honed my plans for escape to a fine edge. It was a simple plan. I stopped going to school after the 9th grade. It was 37 days before the school contacts my mother and asks, "Where's your son been?" After another good beating by my father and my adamant refusal to return to school, we work out a deal. I will go to work for my uncle's construction firm, and as soon as my 17th birthday arrives, they will sign me into the army, and we can happily go our separate ways. That was the beginning of my journey. But how exactly did I become a fireman? I think it was a combination of two things. First, there was maternal advice. My mother always told me, join the civil service. During the Depression, when everybody was out of work, your Uncle John brought home $32 a week as a cop. The second thing was accidental. Watching TV one night, a commercial came on showing a little old lady sitting in a bedroom filled with smoke and crying. Next thing, the window disintegrates, and in comes a fireman and rescues her. It's a commercial announcing an upcoming test to join the New York City Fire Department. I know immediately that if I could just get that job, I too could become a hero. The 1970s are known in the official history of the New York City Fire Department as the war years. Civil unrest, Crime, drug addiction, and poverty were the four horsemen sowing epic proportions of havoc upon the South Bronx. Arson became the answer to many disputes. Property owners with problem buildings burned them to the ground, collected the insurance money, and walked away. Someone kick your ass in a street fight and you want to get even? Toss a Molotov cocktail through their window at 3 a.m. You caught your living boyfriend for cheating on you? Pile his clothes on the bed and put a match to them. Fires, murders, car wrecks, you name it, we dealt with it. Sure, they have to be an appointed. I was telling a group of friends, all Bronx residents like me, some of what was occurring scarcely 3 miles from our homes. Man, you are full of shit, because if any of that kind of stuff happened, it would be all over the newspapers. Well, it wasn't in the papers, because at that time, it was so commonplace, it just wasn't news. I never mentioned another word about work to anyone outside the firehouse. What do you say when your wife asks, "How was work last night, dear?" Well, to answer truthfully would horrify you. We had a tough tour, honey, and I got to get some sleep before going back in tonight. I'll tell you about it later, okay? But I never did. I forgot about it instead. And alcohol helped me forget. Lots and lots of alcohol helped me forget. But it wasn't all bad. It's 8:30 a.m. and in the firehouse kitchen with Good Morning America on the TV providing background noise, the on-duty members of the night tour that is about to end are gathered for the coffee and the ball-busting session that marks the start and finish of every tour. As was his habit, firefighter Benz is last to enter the kitchen. He pours himself a cup of coffee and sits apart in distance and attitude from the rest of the group. Almost everyone in the firehouse has a nickname, and almost everyone drives a beat-up old ghetto-mobile because our cars are often the target of vandalism. But Benz drives a Mercedes that is never touched because he pays the local tough guy not to mess with his car. Nobody messes with his car. The main topic of conversation this morning is the upcoming company picnic. Big John calls across the room. "Hey, Benz, you coming to the picnic this year?" "Fuck no, I may have to work with you guys, but I sure as shit don't have to hang out with you." Now the Beast chimes in. "Hey, Benz, we're putting a new roof on Joe the Mutt's house. You gonna help?" "Hell no. I don't work for free. You want to bust your ass for a couple of beers and a pizza? Go right ahead. Me? If I'm working, I'm getting paid." While most members regard the job as a calling and helping each other out as a duty to a brother, Benz views it simply as a paycheck and a benefits package, and he ain't got no brothers. Thusly, he sits alone in the crowded room with his coffee, morning newspaper, and large stack of lotto tickets for the previous night's multi-million-dollar drawing, dreaming of better days to come. While checking his numbers and sipping his coffee, a box bangs in and "Everybody goes!" blares out over the intercom. Instantly, the ball busting ends, the kitchen's empty, the rigs roll, and Lotto is forgotten by all. Well, not by all. In this firehouse resides a member who is far above the rest when it comes to a practical joke and who never misses the opportunity to provide a good laugh. He is the boy bum. And today this comedic genius has decided to target firefighter Benz. The box proves to be a false alarm, and as the rigs are returning to quarters, the boy bum requests to stop to get a pack of smokes. He's in and out of the bodega in a couple of minutes. Conspicuously, he displays his pack of cigarettes as he saunters back to the rig. The chauffeur says, "Come on, bum, get your ass on the rig. I want to go home." Climbing aboard the rig, he has a big grin on his face because, in addition to the cigarettes, hidden in his pocket is a time bomb in the form of a lottery ticket for the next scheduled drawing, but with last night's winning numbers. Upon returning to quarters, the bum was the first guy back into the kitchen. After slipping the phony ticket halfway down into the pile that Ben's left sitting on the table, he pours himself a fresh cup of coffee and sits down in the back of the room, his arms folded across the face, across his chest, and a big smile on his face. It's now nearly 9 a.m. The tours are about to change, and the kitchen is filled with the laughter and conversation of both the oncomings and the off-going platoons, as Benz resumes checking his tickets. A sudden shout startles everyone into silence as firefighter Benz jumps atop a table. Motherfuckers, I'm rich! He then begins a tirade that reveals his true feelings regarding the firehouse in general and those present in particular. No more busting my ass for pennies. As of today, I lead the good life. I'm going to take a cruise around the world on my new yacht, and maybe I'll send you assholes a postcard. Hey, Captain, you can shove the firehouse up your ass. I quit. Big John, I'm going to have my own picnic, and you ain't fucking invited. And you, Muttface, I'll send you a picture of my roof. You know, the one that doesn't leak on the mansion that I'm going to buy? After several minutes of berating the assemblyman, she stops for a breath. Just as he's about to resume his rant, the bum's voice from the back of the room pierces the silence. Check the date, asshole. And another legendary firehouse story is born. You know, I lived through some interesting times in the fire department, and I learned that you don't have to be a fireman to be a hero, which really helps me in my new job. I'm now a flight attendant.